Well, welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about solar transits 31 and 33. So we'll be exploring around, seeing what we can learn and what we can play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. So just as we got on, we were talking about sort of this end of, now I always have to remember, is this 56? Yes. Yeah. Oh, the one that we all share and feeling just all feeling a little discombobulated coming to the end of this transit. And I said I had trouble arriving. When I woke up this morning, it really didn't want to happen. It's like I was moving into the day wasn't the thing.
Yeah, I feel like the Gate 56 that we're in right now, this stimulation, it has been a particularly stimulating. This is about experiences, right? Wanting stimulating experiences. And I feel like, yes, that's been on offer, but I'm like, I'm good. I don't really want any more stimulating experiences. So I can kind of hear what you're saying. It's just kind of like, yeah, but can we not?
Yeah, it feels like it stirs up something, but then there's no forward motion with what gets stirred up.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I've gone through this whole period with like this brick weight on my chest, like just it's all stirred up inside, but there's something holding it back, which there is.
Yeah. I thought maybe it was just sort of stultifying heat that had come in on us and
Mm.
no real energy to get something really done.
It's in the collective too, Lois.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a collective, that's right. And it is this it really it's a manifesting gate, but it isn't an energy gate. Like it doesn't have energy behind it, right? And so I very much feel like what you just said is kind of that is the thing, right? It's like I've got this thing, but I don't actually have the energy to make it happen, or there isn't the energy there to actually push it through to
Yeah,
completion.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah. Which is something I don't think we pay enough attention to sometimes, right? We think about manifestation and this energy in the throat as being about, putting things out in the world, but that only happens if there's the fuel for it, right? And so that is a key part. So, and it's interesting too because we're going to continue in throat gates for the next two gates. We're going to step into gate 31. The sun's going to move into 31 from 56, also a throat gate. Also, another place to be paying attention is there. This is the gate of leading, the gate of influence, right? And so it really is about our ability to influence others and to be asked to lead, right? This is a projected channel, so it really needs to be asked to take charge or to step in and be that leader, but it also carries this energy of authoritarianism, right? And so it is also, it can be an authority, which we all think is great. To be an authority is really wonderful, but to be authoritarian about it is not so much, right? So these two things are very much intertwined in this energy and, this wanting to influence people. Again, it's this thing that we manifest from our own identity, but if there's only if there's the fuel there for it, right? And so this will be another interesting time to see if we continue to feel this like push to make something happen in the collective, kind of like with 56, but yet somehow can't see it through. I mean, that also is a real possibility here. So I don't know. It's a little bit about 31.
Yeah. I was just thinking about 31. I have it in my profile. And uh, in the gene keys, the shadow is arrogance. And I was thinking about the sort of the idea of influence that also comes up related to human design and how I have throughout my life had a very difficult relationship with the idea of influence because somehow have conflated that with manipulation. And I thought too, it might be an interesting thing to look at because I've, for me, I've tossed around the word shadow a lot over the last year and a half in terms of what that's about and sort of in, I like that relationship we have with parts of ourselves that we're not very aware of. So the shadow is like all the things that we're not aware of. And it is in that becoming aware that that's when things start to move and change. And I realized I was going through this, and like this move to the gift is when you start to see through what's going on. Um, that like that's where my relationship with this idea of influence really started to change. And I wasn't holding it so negatively as I used to, because I was kind of like, well, I wouldn't want to be, perceived as pushy or arrogant or any of those things, because in our world, arrogant is a negative, right? And so just this like realizing that I didn't have to, I'm just trying to think about that, didn't have to control what was going on around me. It was more this allowing and letting, like when that sort of a pressure to be the leader showed up, it just like, okay, to step into it when it felt right and not feel like my influence was there just to sort of force things to happen. It was really about how can I help it happen? Yeah. Yeah. All of a sudden I felt like I was rambling there.
No, it was a great thread, Lois. And there's a number of things I'd like to pick up on, but let me pick up on the allowing because that was something that I saw through the I Ching that this isn't about pursuing something. And I think this is really important. Neither one of these are take action gates. So that's kind of contrary to our culture and how we get things done, right? From Western culture, we have to do and we have to take action. And instead, this is about cultivating and allowing. And there was a particular phrase that I thought was really much of in the lines of, be the change you want to be is lead in the way that you want to see leadership happen out there in the world. And so that's through being a good example. And there isn't a single gate where it doesn't come back to us and our own inner work, right?
Yeah, and that ties in directly like this channel is between the throat and the identity center, right? So it is all about how you and your personal individual nature is influential in the world, right? Is leading in some way in the world. And some of what both of you touched on, especially you, Lois, this idea of influence, like as you were saying it, it made me think like I think we've actually come to think of influence as a fairly negative word in general, especially in the age of like influencers,
Yeah.
right? And I think when we think about, we all live in this moment of hyper capitalism. And so we very much entwined this idea of influencing others with selling to others, right? And I think that that is a really sticky point around this word that we have to be aware of because I suspect before, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, if you said to somebody, you said, "Hey, that person's really influential," you would have had a very different idea of that person and what that person was like than if I said it now, right? Because it's just it's unfortunate, I think, because we are here to influence each other in hopefully positive ways. But I feel like this word has kind of been denigrated in some ways, in that it's always got this undertone of like you're being manipulated, like you said, Lois, right? Like it's manipulative as opposed to it's like life taking as opposed to life giving. And I think that's kind of an interesting twist that's happened with this word and how we may see this energy actually.
Yeah. Because it's like I realize like I do want to influence. We're here in an attempt to influence in some way. But the we're doing this with us is like we're offering out what we think and what we're experiencing and trying to help people sort of see through some of the conditioning that's gone on in the world. And but then it's up to people to play with, which was like we talk about at the beginning, and see how that works for them. And if it does, and it opens up something new for them, but we don't know what that's going to be. Just hopefully it's, good.
And generally, it's not what you're sure it is going to be when you think about it. It's better than what we could imagine or what box we put it in. We've got a lot of astrology going on, and I think just to hit on the high points of this particular period is we do have Mercury going direct on the first day of this gate. And so this is interesting because Mercury has been retrograde in Cancer, where it's given us a time to really scoop down deep into our feelings and feel things. And I think we both, all three, talked about we felt things more deeply during this period. And so now would be the time that we might take that, what we felt, and bring it up to the light and see what we can do to have that influence how we will influence others. So take our own emotional baggage, so to speak, that we've had time to be looking at over these last 3 weeks, or we've been in the opportunity to look at and say, what of that do I want to resource and bring up to the light? Not to take action yet, because we're not at an action time, but to cultivate that in ourselves.
Yeah, and in part that's really important because again, this energy needs to be invited, right? And so we have to be able to cultivate the things inside of us that are leadership oriented and influential in order for other people to notice them and see them and then want part of them, right? And this is the energy that democracy is actually rooted in, right? This is a democratic leadership energy. And the potential is amazing, but it has to be cultivated, like you said, internally first, right? Which means that you have to actually be democratic within yourself, right? Which we don't think about a lot. But you have to let all of your parts come together and work together in a cohesive and coherent way. And then when you can do that, that is what you show out into the world so that other people can then, ask for that skill and technique and ability from you. And that's, exactly what this energy is here for. So you're right, it is a time of internal action, probably more than external action, I think.
When I looked at the I Ching, it spoke to something that you were just sharing, Christine, is that the wording is, kind of archaic, but it's in this becoming empty so that other people you can become more approachable to other people and sort of allowing the more of a balance in the feminine leading and the masculine supporting, which is interesting because they like in the hexagrams, it always feels to me like the lake's a very feminine. Uh, the metaphor is feminine for me, and the mountain is rather masculine. So there you have the mountain holding the lake, and the lake's like this vessel, holding everything. And, when it's being held, it's not ready to move yet.
What's interesting that would hexagram would show up in the human design flow at the same time we're seeing this basket, this vessel, bowl up in the sky, right? And it's shifting bit by bit still, but it's still present. There's a couple more important things, and I think we could almost spend a whole nother episode just on talking about the nodes changing, because this is huge. And I would say if you're interested in this, Pam Gregory did a very concise, short recording. I think it was just released yesterday or today on this. But what we have is the lunar nodes shifting into Aquarius in the north and Leo in the south. And this affects the collective in a huge way for the next 18 and a half months. to 2 years. I think the period's 18 and a half months. And but it personally, it will be affected by it, just depending on your chart. But that all being said, that again, that this would happen in this gate, because that's a very democratic move, right? We're moving into looking at the collective as how can we be our best self, our highest self, and fully embrace who we are and love who we are, and embrace the collective and serve the collective at the same time. That's really what this big shift is in a nutshell. There's a lot of pieces to it. So I would recommend folks looking. So we start this gate, we got Mercury goes direct, we've got Saturn stationing retrograde, we've got the nodes changing, and then at the end we've got this giant full moon in Aquarius, and again embracing that collective once again.
That's a lot.
There's so much, and it's dense. And I think what I've really discovered is the less I can pack my own days, the more I can flow with this energy. But when I pack my days against a packed energetic astral field, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's so much that it's actually, I think I've witnessed it this weekend actually being felt by the collective, by people who are not paying any attention to it at all. But in their conversation, they were just like, "Wow, I can't. There's so much going on, and I'm feeling all this stuff, and I don't know what." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the transits. That's the heavens right now." And they're like, "It is," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're not wrong." And they're like, "Oh my God, that makes me feel so good." That's right. You know? But again, they're not tracking it, and we as a culture don't track it, right? And so and they didn't even want to know. Thankfully, they didn't want to know the details because I couldn't tell them the details. But it just saying to them, hey, you're correct. That thing you're feeling is accurate, and there is a possible explanation for it, right? Like you could just see their nervous system be like, oh, right? Like, oh, okay. They didn't really, I mean, I'm sure it didn't fix the rest of their day, but it was helpful. And so I think that that's part of what, is helpful to us as well, right? This is why we keep doing this. We're like, we don't understand it all, but sometimes it's really nice to just know a little bit about what's going on, right? So that we have some grounding in the fact that there's a whole bunch of energy outside of us that is impacting us on a regular basis, right? And also, I just want to say about the nodes. The nodes are shifting from a human design perspective as well, which isn't always the case, right? It's because there's 4 and 5 different gates in each astrological sign. That shifting astrologically happens less frequently than it does in human design, but in this case, they're happening simultaneously. And from a human design perspective, the nodal environment we're shifting into is gate 30 and gate 29, which gate 30 is feelings, right? It's the most deeply feeling energy in the entire mandala. And gate 29 is about experiences and discovery, and it's called the gate of saying yes, right? So I look at this hopefully as the time when we are finally really ready as a collective to look for new experiences, because these are both collective gate energies, that we are really finally ready to say, hey, we're done with this thing and we're ready to say yes to something new, right? We're ready to feel better. And even though we're scared, we're ready to say yes to it anyway, right? So I'm really hoping that this little nodal shift pushes us in that direction.
And maybe that's an opening for a shift in what the sort of the collective narrative is, like, which is where our conditioning comes from. So I was sort of like suggesting questioning, being skeptical about the way things are. Anytime that is just the way things are, or that's always the way we do things, is just to sit back and go, well, is it the best way? And see if there's room for something else.
Well, with a North Node in Aquarius, it's going to want something else.
So be open
Totally.
to it.
Totally. Let me pop in here with the Gemmo here. Um, Oak would be the Gemmo to consider for this period for a number of reasons. First of all, we're going to need energy, which oak actually balances our cortisol levels. So, and it provides a good hit of dopamine. So we're going to need energy, not to necessarily move forward, but to cultivate what we need to cultivate inside. And oak, as I remember talking about this last year, is the most democratic tree that exists. It shares its understory with one of the widest groups of biodiverse groups of plants. It makes the soil better for whatever comes next. It's a host to countless living species. So I think if you can look to the tree and see what you take away from it, or you can look to the Gemmo and say, cortisol levels, this is a time where they're certainly getting out of whack. And most folks, because we're all running on that stress um, belt. I mean, it really does feel like a belt, and it just keeps going. And we keep doing the same thing over and again and wonder why we still are stressed.
Go the rat race.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Gate 33 is coming up, will come up after that. So Gate 31 is July 24th to the 29th, and then on the 30th of July, the sun steps into Gate 33. And it's interesting, these two gates also, we went through Gate 62 and 56, which were both collective throat gates side by side, and these are also two collective throat gates side by side, which I kind of think is interesting. Gate 31 being the logical, pattern-oriented, future-focused energy, and then Gate 33 that we step into on the 30th is the experiential and looking towards, it's called retreat, and it's called, it's an energy of reviewing, right? It's wanting to look at the experiences that we've had and trying to, working to make sense of them in order so that we can figure out which things to keep and which things we can let go of so that we can step into the future together. So they both have a bit of a future focus, but Gate 31 is much more like, where are we going? How are we going to get there? What are we doing? What's the pattern we need to know in order to do it correctly? And Gate 33 is much more like, yeah, let's take it slowly. We got to look back at what we did before, make sure we understand how things happen, and then we can use that information to stepping into the future. And so Gate 33 really is, it's a retreat energy. It's called privacy in the in human design. I have this gate very prominently in my chart. I totally resonate with this privacy thing, right? Like, this is why I have a studio space, right? This is why I don't really like it when people just randomly show up in my studio space, right? Not that people ever do, but they do. And it is about this ability to step back and to make sense of experiences, right? It's trying to figure that aspect of life out in order to, again, know what to trim away and then to what to keep and move forward with. And again, this is the last of the mountain gates in the mountain hexagram section of the wheel that we're in. So it is also, both 31 and 33 do have this element of stillness, right? There really is an energy to stay still, try to look at, what's going on and try to assess, right? So it's active, it's kind of an active waiting energy, which very much I think is in line with 33.
Yeah, it's interesting because as listening to you, is that there's an individual and there's a collective aspect to this gate. And so there's like at the end of, I guess, and we're really starting with ourselves is almost always the best, because we can understand what's going on for ourselves. But this paying attention to how we're responding to what's going on out in the world, and sort of follows through from 31 in terms of being able to see through the illusion of what's going on. And so the only way we can really see that is well, not the only way, but one of the best ways is through our relationships, like in how we interact with other people, because that seems to be the place that sort of goes to the heart of what's going on. Like when we bump up against people and things aren't going well, it's showing us something. I mean, you can hate it, but people are like a mirror for us, and they allow us to see the things that are difficult. And that allows us to sort of see our own personal patterns, largely because people point them out to us. And as we start to be able to see that, we become a lot more self-aware. And that allows us to be more grounded in the world. Because without that self-awareness, it's hard to be grounded.
Yeah, I think that's really true, Lois. And also, like, this energy really is about the ability to recognize when we need to actively pull back and assess, right? And so, what you just said made me think about that. Like, instead of, like, if you're butting up against somebody, right? Like, during this transit, there may be a much more expansive ability for you to be like, you know what? I don't want to fight about this. I don't want to argue about it. I really need to look at it though, and I need to do that on my own. I need to retreat. I need to take some private time and really reflect on it. And, this really is a perfect energy for that, and to be aware of that and to maybe just, you know, use it while it's here.
Well, and I think we will have even more insights because of this nodal shift, because Aquarius is going to open up the 370 million opportunities and ideas that come through in Aquarian's head. In the I Ching also says retreat does not mean surrender. And that would be something our world leaders might be able to take into a little bit. If we can offer homeopathic doses of that worldwide, it might be important. But what you're saying, Christine, it's not about this struggle. It's about stepping back and strategically planning the next move. And in that, you actually gain healthy power, not a power over situation, but a healthy power. And again, I think all that juiciness that's going to come in with this nodal shift is going to be wonderful at giving us more time for this personal growth. And Lois, when you talk about shadow work, I think Gate 33 is an ideal time to tap into. So I've hit this rub. I'm going to back off. That's exactly what it's all about, right? Let me go in and see, why is this zinging me so much?
Yeah. Why does this bug me? It's usually
Right.
what it is, or
Exactly.
uncomfortable.
That's the question. And I can't help, let me just jump right into the Gemmo because it's so perfect for this time. So the Gemmo is walnut. So what walnut does on a very physical plane is it works with the mucosal linings in organ systems. So this is the lining that protects the you from the them, right? The bacteria, the viruses, mucosal lining, you. And what walnut does is it changes the environment in that mucosal lining to repel what's coming. And so this is a strategy, right? It's not it's not like the walnut doesn't arm wrestle the bacteria to the floor. It's just like, hey, I'm going to step back. I'm going to help this lining that's between us get stronger. And I think that would be a really cool picture to hold, like when you come up against that aggravating person, situation, part of yourself, to think about that, think about that lining, and oh, how could I change that environment just to make this work in a more favorable way. And at the same time, very different than oak. Walnut doesn't want anything growing under it, right? It has to do this work alone. And it strengthens our autonomy to be able to do that. You never see a walnut tree leaning on another tree or shrub. Like, oh, I mean, it doesn't. It's like not only is it tall and beautiful and statuesque, it's like, get out of my way, everyone.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating because it really speaks to these two diametrically opposed yet still parts of the collective energy, right? Like 31 with the oak is bringing in all kinds of people together, right? Looking to see how we can make community, how we can lead, and how we can influence each other into the future, right? And then Gate 33 is like, yeah, that's cool, but you also have to know who to exclude, right? Or what to exclude, right? And you all like that's part of how we balance the collective energy. And so it's interesting that we're seeing that in these trees and in how they behave that yeah, I think very clearly mimic the same kind of like retreat experience that we're having in 33 and the influence experience we might have in 31. That's really kind of cool how it all lines up.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, and like using mindfulness techniques while along with the walnut to pay attention. And like, as I was saying before, is like if we can pay attention and get really self-aware about ourselves, somehow that expands out and we get a lot more aware of what's going on around us, partly because we're not getting disoriented by our own inner stuff so much anymore. Or if we are getting disrupted by it, we can catch it and go, oh, I've got a different choice here. And so if each of us are doing that and then we take that into the collective, that then allows for the collective to start to shift as well. And because the collective can start to see its patterns, those will move.
Yeah, as you say that, Lois, it makes me think again about this idea that both of these energies are connected directly to to the identity, right? They are direct expressions of identity. And there aren't that many of those in the body graph. And so I think it is kind of an interesting thing where we are in gate 31 and 33, we are probably closer as a collective or as a species to seeing how the identity is actually being expressed and how true to itself it actually is or not, right? Because there's so little filter between the identity and the expression in these particular gates. And so it may be a time to really pay attention, again, I think to yourself, right? How you are expressing is probably going to be a much clearer, just a clearer picture of what is true for you and is not, and how true to yourself you are being, right?
Yeah. And then like taking that out because what's going on is really in our faces right now. It's sort of globally. And so just like to pay attention and to go like you just said, Christine, is like knowing what's right for you and knowing where you stand. Where are you with all of that? Right? So what's okay? What's not okay? What do you really want to see change? We're influencing again.
I feel like there's more to be said about this gate, but I'm completely drawing a blank.
I think we're good. I think, remember, retreat doesn't mean surrender, Christine.
No, no, that's absolutely true.
No, it's strategic or tactical.
Right.
All right.
Love it.
Okay. So thank you for being with us, and we hope we'll see you next time.